Mr Speaker, Deputy Speaker, I'm proud to rise today to speak in support of this important piece of legislation in recognising fundamentally, unequivocally and with absolute clarity that love between two people should not be limited by one's sexuality. As a Tasmanian, I'm proud to be able to stand here today and speak in favour of same-sex marriage and be able to mark this enormous progression from a Tasmanian community that once legislated and endorsed discrimination against people based on sexuality to a Tasmanian community that is today leading the nation in treating all people by the same values of equality. Since well before the 2009, when the State Labor Conference saw us become the first ALP branch in Australia to support marriage equality, this progressive political party has fought for equality, and today we take the historical step of saying enough is enough. In the classic words of Victor Hugo, there is nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come. And Mr Deputy Speaker, the time for marriage equality has most definitely come. Some say some time ago. Mr Deputy Speaker, sort of get emotional about these moments, don't you, really? Because you know you're a part of history and you know you're doing something bloody well worthwhile. Mr Deputy Speaker, it's debates such as this, on legislation such as this, which does cause you to reflect on why you stand for politics, why you put your hand up to represent your community and to try to make a difference in people's lives. I remember the values my parents gave me, my dad and my mum, and the importance that they instilled in me, the respect and human decency for all people. Dad, working class lad from Launceston, the swampy from Invermay, elected union delegate and shop steward for his workplace. He believed that decency was the cornerstone of character, and you look after your mates, and there's a right and a wrong, and you do right. Mum raised three very grateful kids, and when she went back to the workforce as a cleaner, she too was elected as a union delegate. There's a pattern forming. Mum instilled in us the passion for social justice, for equity, and above all an ability to be compassionate and to be able to walk in other people's shoes, to understand their perspective. Mum was never someone who sat around feeling sorry for someone. Rather, she always asked us what we could do to help. And those values that my parents instilled in me led me to work with the union movement. It's also these values that make it very clear in my mind today that it matters not the sexuality of one's parents or the makeup of one's family that defines the quality of a child's upbringing, a child that is loved, cherished and nurtured. Thank you. Whatever that family or support network looks like a child, that they have the very best start in life. These are the values that made me a member of the Labor Party. And these values, the sense that government has a responsibility to do right by people, especially for those who are most vulnerable, are the values that I will always try to bring to my role in here. These are the values why I stand here in support of equal marriage today. We cannot undo what has been done before, Mr Deputy Speaker, but we must do right when we have the opportunity, and as a government I'm proud to say that we will no longer step away from our responsibility to do right by people who need it most. Mr Deputy Speaker, a few weeks back, when the Tasmanian Parliamentary Labor Party made the decision that it was time to stand up against discrimination and legislate for equal marriage, it caused me to think back to the times when Tasmania was not such a progressive place to live. I remembered as a child watching on the nightly news as Tasmania fumbled with the issue of sexuality and the dark period during which Tasmania sought to deny the basic rights of the GLBTI community. I remember seeing the scenes and protests and arrests, and as a young boy finding my way in the world, I looked at my dad for the reaction, for some insight as how I should react when I saw a young Rodney Croom being bundled into the back of a paddy wagon. Dad was a working class fella, and you'd think he's a man of his era and a man of his time, that he may not have been progressive, but he quite simply said, leave them alone, let them live. Let them have their life. Leave them alone. And it was those values that he and my mother taught me, that everyone has a right to be treated with respect, to be valued, to be treated equally, despite our difference. That has made it very clear to me that these values are not just to be justified or qualified. These values should not be expressed with an asterisk. They are absolute, and as elected members of Parliament and as lawmakers, we have a responsibility to the community to uphold them. It is this belief that drives my advocacy for equality in relation to marriage for same-sex couples. I entered politics to give a voice to these values, and that's why I stand here today. Because every day that we allow the institution of marriage to exclude same-sex couples is one more day that people are discriminated against in a way that fundamentally affects their lives. The failure of our society to treat same-sex and gender-diverse couples as equal to all others under law is a fundamental denial of basic human rights. And as a member of the Tasmanian Labor Party, I fundamentally believe that people must be entitled to respect, equality and dignity. A continual denial of these rights says to the community that lesbian, gay, bisexual, transsexual and intersexual couples are not equal and their relationships are of lesser value. They are real people with real hearts, and their love for their partners is just as precious as a love between a man and a woman. We must not give these couples special treatment or anything more than anyone else. We must not construct civil unions for specific couples. All we must do is give all people, regardless of their sexuality, the same rights to be treated equally and to be treated with the same respect as everyone else in society. There will always be those who continue to oppose equity and fairness and promote ongoing discrimination based on sexuality. And whether they like it or not, they continue to provide oxygen to those people who wish to spread hate and misunderstanding. A denial of equal marriage currently empowers homophobia, and it needs to be changed. The moves taken today by the Tasmanian Labor Party with our Green colleagues is the clearest sign that we do not stand by to allow this hate to continue. So, Deputy Speaker, the path to end discrimination has through history been a long and well-trodden path. It is, however, a path that throughout time has proven again and again that acceptance and equality will overcome prejudice. Through the overcoming of discrimination based on race, colour and ethnicity, through gender-based discrimination and discrimination in the workplace, we can see that when we fight prejudice with acceptance, when we value inclusion over exclusion, and when we provide understanding over ignorance, we will always win. In today's Australia, it seems extraordinary, and especially in today's Tasmania, it seems extraordinary that such prejudice was once widely accepted. Mr Deputy Speaker, these references are, however, less important for what they convey about the past than what they tell us about today. They remind us of how much change is possible, that prejudice dissipates. Most of all, they remind us of how powerful the principle of equality is. While prejudice can be a strong force, we must not give up hope that change is possible and that what we are doing is right. Since being elected to Parliament, I've been a strong supporter of the youth-led organisation Outright Youth, which provides strategies that will allow GLBTI people in the Tasmanian regions to come out with pride and live in their community with dignity as fully respected and participating members. And I regularly meet with advocates in my local electorate, Julian Punch, and the League of Gentle Fellows. The work that these organisations do in supporting the GLBTI community cannot be underestimated, and it is in support of these types of organisations we stand up for today. Mr Deputy Speaker, since being elected, I promoted these organisations through posters and promotion at my electorate office in Kingston. Despite many posters and notices being removed and defaced, every time a poster gets pulled down, we put another one back up straight away and we replace it, and we'll continue to do that. And while ignorance and hate will continue to rear its head, we know that when we stand up for equality, each time gets easier. The important work undertaken by these organisations continues to make the lives of same-sex attracted and gender-diverse young people growing up in Tasmania easier every day, and it continues to grow the community empowered by equality and acceptance. Mr Deputy Speaker, it is through our support of these groups and our support here today that shows our community that discrimination and inequality will always be wrong and will always be overcome by acceptance and respect. People often ask, why is it so important about marriage? Why does it matter if some people in society are excluded from getting married anyway? Mr Deputy Speaker, there are few celebrations, special moments in time that communities come together for, and a wedding and a marriage remains one that is so important. Marriage is a social union or a legal contract between people, often called spouses, that creates kinship. The definition of marriage varies according to different cultures, but is usually an institution in which interpersonal relationships, usually intimate and sexual, are acknowledged. Such a union is often formalised via a ceremony. Marriage can be recognised by a state, an organisation, a religious authority, a tribal group, a local community or peers. It is often viewed as a contract. Civil marriage is the legal concept of marriage as a government institution, irrespective of religious affiliation, in accordance with marriage laws of the jurisdiction. The way in which a marriage is conducted and its rules and ramifications has changed over time, as has the institution itself, Mr Deputy Speaker, depending on the culture, or demographic of the time. And as communities, we continue to evolve, we continue to grow, and we continue to get better. Mr Deputy Speaker, in the words of young advocate Zach Wiles, in response to legislation seeking to ban same-sex marriage in the US state of Iowa, marriage is so important and so hard to win, simply because of its symbolic importance. Nothing says like we're in love in such a public, widely recognised way as marriage. Mr Deputy Speaker, not everyone will get married, but when we say that some people are not deserving of marriage, of this fundamental social contract, we engage in an act of telling a whole bunch of people in our society that they're not worthy because of their sexuality, of a widely recognised and valued fundamental part of being a member of our society. Mr Deputy Speaker, this is simply unacceptable. Now, Mr Speaker, I'm not going to quote the Bible here today. There will be people who will do that, I'm sure, but rather reference those well-held and fundamental values often cited as Christian faith and who I support. They have a close connection with the institution of marriage. Values such as love thy neighbour and do unto others as you would have them do unto you. These values very clearly and very deliberately seek to promote social harmony and acceptance and do not seek to be qualified or undermined. There are those that say this bill and the debate today means that we're getting our priorities wrong and that there are much more important things to discuss. To that I say there is no more important thing than to discuss basic, fundamental human rights. To accept it as a government and as a parliament that we do not have time to debate something as fundamental as equality is not something that I'm prepared to do. To some, these issues may seem too hard to prioritise, but as representatives entrusted with the future of our state, we must drive ourselves to accept challenges others walk away from. The debate around equal marriage has been characterised by some as a sideshow and by Conservatives as something only strongly felt by the left. Those opposite say that this decision to tackle discrimination is self-indulgent. To them, Mr Deputy Speaker, I would point to those here today and those following Tasmanian Parliament across Australia and around the world whose lives will be fundamentally changed for the better from the success of this legislation, and should suggest that they ask of them whether what we do here today is self-indulgent and merely a folly of the left. I would further draw their attention to the comments of Conservative leader and British Prime Minister David Cameron. Now, I don't bring myself to agree with Mr Cameron too often, but on this, his commentary on Conservative politics, I will make an exception. Mr Deputy Speaker, on equal marriage and the type of politics those opposite choose to expose, he says, Conservatives believe in the ties that bind us, that society is stronger when we make vows to each other and support each other. So I don't support gay marriage despite being a Conservative. I support gay marriage because I am a Conservative. Marriage equality between two consenting adults to the exclusion of all others will make our state more inclusive and fairer, more respectful of all citizens equally, and will actually build stronger families in our community. Those opposite who stand for conservative social ideology, who believe freedom means freedom for all, quoting Dick Cheney, never thought I'd ever do that as well, who believe that society is stronger when we make vows to each other, should stand with fellow Conservative leaders Isabel Redman in South Australia, Campbell Newman in Queensland, and across the waters in New Zealand with John Key, and think strongly about how their values really guide them and whether this matter is important to our community. So, Deputy Speaker, the case for marriage equality is not just as an issue of equality is very clear. Likewise, the damage to our community that continues to occur by this exclusion is also very clear. Dr Darren Cundy, speaking to an Australian Senate inquiry, recognised marriage says to a couple, your family acknowledges you, your community acknowledges you, and the law of the land acknowledges you. To preclude a couple from marriage on the basis of sexuality sends just the opposite message. The support of same-sex marriage is fundamental to the acceptance of LGBTI community as equal amongst others. Those that seek to qualify the value of equity in its application to marriage, those commentators that say that they will happily welcome them to their table gay couples but deny their claim to marriage rights because of their lifestyle continue to propagate a society that condones discrimination. We cannot sit back and allow discrimination based on sexuality to occur because the harm is so great. Stats show that if you are gay, you are much more likely to self-harm, to be depressed, and shockingly, you are 14 times more likely to attempt suicide. When 81% of non-heterosexual young people have been the victims of verbal abuse because of their sexual orientation, because our laws reflect a value that it is okay to discriminate on the basis of sexuality, we must recognise that it's time for action. Inversely, studies by Beyond Blue suggest that being in a relationship appears to actually be a significant protective factor, both for non-heterosexual women and men, for these increased risks of mental illness, providing support for equal marriage and giving same-sex couples the same ability to have their love and commitment recognised. The case for marriage equality is not one that seeks to undermine the foundations of marriage as a cultural and legal institution, nor is it one that seeks to undermine families or the upbringing of children, as some detractors would suggest. A stable, low-conflict, supportive, happy and loving family is what provides the best start to an individual's life, and it's time we allow same-sex and gender-diverse couples the legal recognition for such families that already exist. Mr Deputy Speaker, in conclusion, I stand here today supporting this bill fundamentally, unequivocally and with clarity, because either all human beings have the same rights or none of us have any, because as a community we should all be allowed to celebrate love because it is the right thing to do. Today marks a historical day in our history in overcoming discrimination. Today marks a turning point in our journey, and we will always acknowledge that changes such as this don't just happen. Many individuals and organisations have contributed to the place we find ourselves in today, and I'd particularly like to acknowledge some of them. Activist Rodney Croom. I remember when I first became Secretary of the then Liquor Hospitality Miscellaneous Workers Union back in 2002, and we were holding a national conference down here, and I wanted to tell a Tasmanian story, a powerful Tasmanian story, to unionists and activists from all over the country that came here, and we decided to put Rodney on as an after-dinner speaker at the dinner. That was somewhat risky at that stage. It was such a serious topic. But when Rodney got up and spoke very calmly, very clearly about his struggle and the struggle of his community and our community in eradicating discrimination from our laws, you could have heard a pin drop, Mr Deputy Speaker, and when he finished there was a sustained standing ovation. Never happened in the history of the union in terms of conference dinners and conference speeches. A powerful speech. And so thank you, mate, for all your work. You're a legend. Also, I want to thank the Australian Marriage Equality and Alex Greenwich. Alex, good work. Thank you for your support. And also, within the Labor Party, the Tasmanian Young Labor, who were the first to move in the Australian Labor Party and have led from the front in terms of standing up for this progressive agenda. And I know we have reps Stuart Benson and others, Robbie and others in the gallery today. And also I'd like to acknowledge Senator Carol Brown, who has also been a passionate advocate for equality within the Labor Party and within the community more broadly, unflinchingly. I want to thank Rainbow Labor broadly as well. Mr Deputy Speaker, I mentioned earlier the importance of a wedding and the marriage of two people who love each other. And when I was married, it was more than just a party, it was more than just a celebration. It was a wedding. It was a special community event acknowledged by all. And at the end of the ALP State Conference, where, here we go again.
Talk amongst yourselves for a second.
Yeah, I'll be a moment. I was, we had the debates in our caucus over a period of time about how we were going to deal with this, and when I was so proud when the Premier announced that the state PLP would be pursuing this agenda, I sent a text to a mate who's probably watching now. So he's been in a loving same-sex relationship for 14 years. He was so proud, and he asked me to be his best man. And that is something that I really look forward to, being his best man and helping him out and sort of warning him against marriage. That's a joke. It's just a wonderful thing that a close friend who has celebrated important times in my life with me, and I can celebrate with him an important time in his life. And I will. There's been a lot of comparisons to the civil rights movement in the US and Martin Luther King, and there's a favourite quote of mine from Martin Luther King. We remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. And by my actions and our actions here today, and up until this point, I say to my friends, we are not silenced. By our words and our deeds, we will celebrate your love, we will respect your rights, we will treat you with dignity, and we will allow you to marry.